Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is. Yeah, buddy. You know what it is. It's your boy Sean Spencer and my guy over here, Mr. Will Kramer. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wentz is too old for the young legs on the team. He's
Let's
gone
hope,
next year.
man. We want that $26 million. That's what we need right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, let's get into it today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, today in the NFL is the first day that you're able to franchise tag your players, which means you sit there and you put the franchise tag on them, which means they get the average. What is it? The average
of the top 5 players at the position, yeah.
At that position, yeah. So he'd go make about 19 mil.
19, yeah.
It's rough. That's rough. And so obviously there have been a lot of rumors that he will be tagged. Will, what are your thoughts, man? This is part of the little idea you had, which was to tag him and then trade him. So part of your plan is at work.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, if you're tagging him because this now opens up your chance to trade him before the draft, I'm good with this. Yeah. I like this. I mean, like you said, it does allow you to, if they were to tag him, this is a rumor that they're going to tag him. It came out, a couple of different people posted it today, a couple journalists, not fans. I think it's really expensive. I sit here and say like, well, I mean, I love the tandem up the middle. I think it's great. But my concern is if you franchise him next year, you're making a decision on Payne, Sweat, and depending on what happens with Chase Young, if they don't pick up his 5th-year option, you're making a choice on 3 players. Like you're you're kicking that can down the road for the next coach, I guess is what Ron could be doing. So I have my concerns about that, unless they're using this as we've got him, now we can negotiate something, about going, later, making a trade. Because I just worry if he's on our roster at $19 million, as much as a great tandem he is with Allen, is that going to be taking up too much of the roster for us to add some other pieces? Or can we be utilizing, when Jack and I were going through the how would we fix the defense, we said we would put that money towards a linebacker and an offensive lineman, one of each. Take, if you can be getting those guys for 10 to 15 million, each, or whatever you're making the contract, but utilize what you could be paying for Deron Payne and some of whatever you have left over through the Carson release and just other cat money to put into 2 other positions that we need. So I don't know if I'll be happy about that. But more importantly, I think Deron Payne would be furious if he's having to play on another 1-year deal. And I just wonder what type of player you're going to get. Because Ron said, prove it to me and you'll get rewarded. Well, he just proved it.
He did.
Now you're going to ask him to do that again? So I don't know. I worry about that.
Oh, yeah. And there have been rumors about other places. I know Alex was telling me Detroit, they need some interior line help. So there are other places that will most certainly pay this man what he's looking for.
Yeah, I want to jump because Nate's putting some comments about like what a contract. I think there's no way that a long-term deal contract is going to be given to Deron Payne with Dan Snyder as the owner, because he has to put the guaranteed money up. Yep. And if he's selling this team, if that is actually happening, I don't see him being willing to put in $50 million check. Bam, let me just take whatever I'm losing in my sale of the team by $50 million because I have to put this in an earnest account for this long-term deal. So that could be, the team's strategy is, well, if we franchise tag him, we can kick that can down till we get closer to, free agency to decide, are we able to sign this guy to a long-term deal or do we need to be dealing him? It was good points by Nate, and he's right. You can make some, cat-friendly deals, but it's more about the fact that I just don't see Snyder putting down that money.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, back to what you were saying earlier, I think Anton asked the right question. Is it rough enough that we aren't paying him? Is he worth the risk? And I think that's what it's coming down
Challenge.
to. It's like you said, we said Ron said you'd get rewarded after you played well. He had over 10 sacks at 11 and a half sacks, was a pro bowler on our team. I mean, I don't know what else you need to ask a man to do. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And obviously was our biggest threat for most of this year. I mean, even rivaled Jonathan Allen in that. He's going to want and maybe is deserved to play himself into that contract. But then on the same side, you go to Zeke and Dallas. You go to a lot of these guys that get that paycheck, and then all of a sudden you coming into camp 30 pounds heavier, and then you ain't been the same since. So that is the risk. There's definitely a risk in trying to make this move because you're paying on the potential. He did great this last year but he also had a reason to do great this last year because it is a business. Can he continue that? Now knowing I've been paid, I'm taken care of, I'm good, and there's not really any real chance of me getting kicked out if you are paying me all this money. So
Right.
it's interesting. It is definitely a risk though. So
Yeah, and I mean, I guess part of me would look at, they're going to know, there's always tampering and, that goes on. And when it comes to, when the combine happens is where some of these free agent deals actually start to take place that we don't know about, that we hear, day one. And I mean, I would say this, the only way I'm okay with them tagging Deron Payne is if one of two things are happening. The first one is their goal is to make a trade before the draft and get something back for him. So that'd be the first one. Or they know that the other ways for them to fix this roster aren't going to happen. Like if you're not going to be able to get Terrell Edmonds, and if you're not going to be able to get a starting tackle, offensive tackle, then if they say, well, we're going to have $31 million, we need to have a quality team. If they say having our, one of our best players back is going to make our defense that much better, then I guess I would say, okay, I understand it. I really do think, that they're just kicking the can down the road if they're just tagging him though.
it almost makes you think of the Brandon Sheriff situation. You know what I mean? Where we had him and it was like, well, do you pay him? Do you pay him that 18 or 19 mil or
right?
Do you tag him? And we ended up tagging him. And then we saw that next year he wasn't going to get tagged again. He wanted out. And as you've seen, he went over to Jacksonville. So,
and
like
played
you said,
phenomenal.
Yes.
And made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. And stayed healthy. How about that?
And stayed healthy. And guess what we're having to do now this year? Revamp our offensive line.
Right.
I know there's only so many dollars, but yeah.
And so, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the X factor, and one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that we drafted somebody for this very position, Fadarius Mathis out of Alabama. We drafted him. He was not able to last a full game before he got hurt and he was out for the year. So we really don't know what we can expect from him coming in. And, we talk about that he has a lot of that quick twitch. Deron Payne changed from being just somebody that solidifies the line and is a run stopper to actually being a threat in rushing the quarterback and getting them off their cues. How many times did he come around on a twist or on a stunt and come around and hit the quarterback that was trying to scramble out, So he's shown how effective he can be. And when you break down having like cornerstones to a team, if our D line is that cornerstone, I think we need to put that money into him personally, but at the same time, we do have a guy, Fadarius Mathis, that we're hoping to at least come close to equaling that production. And then you have Ridgeway who played up this year. So, and we talked about it. And this is the fun part. Nathan said in here, the offseason is the best part. This is the fun part where we can start to pick and choose, okay, where do we want to go? We know my Ioannidis is just down 95 at Carolina. You know what I mean? The guy that he wanted out because of Sam Mills III, but he actually didn't want out. We said we were going to keep him, and then we got Carson Wentz, and then he wanted to throw about that.
Yeah.
All right. So, who knows if those bridges aren't burned and, Dan Snyder's down, maybe he'll come back for a cheaper price, and we know how good he can be in Washington. So,
right.
There's a lot of moves and there's a lot of stuff to try to figure out bits and pieces, but this is an interesting part, man, because the fan side of you is like, man, he balled out this
It
year, man. I
is. It's
can't see
so
the team
hard.
without him.
I
Yeah,
can't. I can't see this defense without him. He's been here
ah,
5 years.
right, right. You know what I mean? And look, don't reduce his time here to the Dallas game from a year ago, where him and Jonathan Allen are throwing blood. It was rough. Everything, we had a guy that they didn't even know his name in the
Yeah,
introductions. They just had a picture of him. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
That
So
COVID ending really kind of deflated everybody.
yeah, it was definitely rough. So eh, hopefully we do keep him. But like you said, he's not going to want to be franchise tagged, and especially if he has other suitors out there. And this free agency and all that stuff hasn't occurred yet. But I mean, who knows? We don't know anything about the tampering or if that ended up happening, whatever. But you don't know if he's been in communications with other players or other teams or other, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Who,
Mm-hmm.
who says he doesn't hit up Tim Settle? Remember a couple years ago we were talking about Tim Settle being here. He goes up to Buffalo. They've had a reasonable amount of success. McKissick was that close to going to Buffalo. Unfortunately, he
Right.
stayed and got hurt. We don't know what happened to him out there. So, there's a couple teams, Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit, that are around the way that are interested for sure and that need that help at that spot. So, I mean, back to was Anton's point, asking, will it benefit it? Yeah, it definitely could. If we play this right, if we get some pieces, maybe some draft lottery, maybe some caps out of it, that could definitely benefit us going down the line. My only issue is let's have a direction. You know what I mean? I feel like we've had a tendency to start tagging these guys and tagging them, and we're trying to, okay, well, do we want to keep you here? We're not showing that we're invested. Let's
Yeah.
either make the move to show that we're invested into these guys, or it's a business, cut ties and keep moving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you're playing this limbo, we already don't, obviously, because of Dan Snyder, but even in house, we don't have the best reputation as far as treating players and everything. Landon Collins and Matt Ioannidis are two prime examples where we said,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to fit you guys in. We're going to get you guys. We want to keep you here. And then all of a sudden, they find out, hey, well, actually, we got to let you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Players talk, and they go to different places, and they talk. They don't want to deal with that stuff. So,
Yeah. Well, and Anton was asking about like what would we try and get back? The compensation for Deron Payne would be a compensatory third round pick next year. Which means that's essentially a fourth round pick next year if he leaves and signs elsewhere. If we don't franchise tag him, you tag him this year and pick his replacement or pick a defensive end or who's going to replace Montez Sweat or Chase Young. Pick a guard, pick a get a player that at a position that we really really need as well. So yeah, that's why the tag and trade is the best option for us if we're able to do that.
oh, absolutely. So, man, we shall see. But like we said, this is the time of the year when all this stuff comes out. All these new moves, all these, decisions to be made, where the money is going to go, who's staying, who's going. We see Eric Bieniemy is here. We are super excited about that. Stay tuned tomorrow for his press conference. So we'll see if he's bringing potentially any coaches. And the next coming days, we'll notice if he's bringing any players, anybody trying to follow him to Washington. And just for everything that's about to go down, let's just see who else gets franchise tagged, if that, in Washington, and what directions we're kind of leaning in, and when Mr. Carson Wentz leaves, because he's still technically with us. So let's get him out. If we're gonna get him out, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh man, we appreciate you guys watching us. Cousins, Collins, Sheriff, yeah, all those guys. Well, they didn't. I don't think they hit Collins with the franchise tag, but definitely Sheriff and Cousins. They hit them with the franchise taggers, and we saw how both of those things ended up.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we so appreciate you guys being here with us. Andrew, Nathan, Anton. Appreciate you guys jumping in these comments, talking to us. We're going to be with you all off season, bringing you into the draft, bringing you back to the regular season and into our 2023 Super Bowl run. Left hand up.
Left hand up.
Let's get it. Yo, for myself, Mr. Sean Spencer, that's my guy over there, Mr. Will Kramer. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. And peace, people. Yeah. Hail Commanders. Let's get it.
Stand up, left hand up. Who are we? The Command.